It started as a day that was supposed to destroy her. Amara Jackson, a young woman barely 24, stood alone in a courtroom that had already decided her fate. Her hands trembled slightly as she faced the room, her eyes scanning the sea of doubtful faces. Whispers labeled her a thief, a liar, a nobody. Judge Harold Denton, a man with 25 years on the bench and a reputation for being tough on crime, harsher still on those who reminded him of the rough streets of Atlanta, leaned back in his chair. A smirk crept across his face, and then he laughed. "You really think you can defend yourself? In my courtroom?" he said, his voice dripping with mockery. Seconds later, the laughter died. For what happened next would leave everyone in that courtroom standing, and silent, with awe. Amara was no ordinary defendant. Born and raised in the rough side of Atlanta, she had been a straight-A student and the first in her family to graduate from college. Now a public defender in training, she had spent her young career fighting for justice, the very system that had once failed her own brother. 2 months earlier, her world had collapsed. District Attorney Charles Bennett, her boss, had been caught embezzling thousands in bail funds. Somehow, though, the blame had fallen squarely on her shoulders. Emails bore her signature. Bank deposits were traced to her name. The intern who had once dreamed of upholding the law was suddenly labeled a criminal. "I didn't do this. I swear. Someone's framing me," Amara pleaded as an officer cuffed her wrists. "You can tell that to the judge, ma'am," the officer said, unyielding. By the time the trial began, the courtroom had already formed its verdict in their minds. Her former boss, now Prosecutor Bennett, stood across from her, eager to bury her career, and her reputation, for good. "Ms. Jackson, are you certain you want to represent yourself?" Judge Denton asked, his voice sharp. "This isn't a school debate club." Amara's voice was soft but resolute. "Yes, Your Honor. I'll speak for myself." "Well then," Denton said, leaning back with a smirk, "this should be entertaining." The laughter that followed would be the last anyone in that courtroom would ever remember. When Amara began to speak, the room fell silent. Every eye turned toward her. "Your Honor, I may not wear your robe," she said, her voice steady and controlled, "but I know the law. And the law says evidence must be proven, not planted." She methodically dismantled the case. "This email, supposedly from me, was sent at 9:32 p.m. But the office security system shows I clocked out at 7 p.m. And these deposits? They came from an account registered in the Cayman Islands, opened 2 years before I even started working." Piece by piece, Amara tore the case apart. Lies unraveled. Claims crumbled. Then, she delivered the final blow, pulling out a flash drive. Hidden security footage from the DA's office, recorded on the night the money vanished, played in front of everyone. "That's you, Mr. Bennett," she said firmly. "And that's the same night those funds disappeared." Bennett's composure cracked. "That footage is inadmissible." It's justice, sir," Amara interrupted. "The very thing this courtroom was built to serve." For the first time that day, Judge Denton's smirk disappeared. He paused, looking over the courtroom, the weight of the moment settling over everyone. "This court finds the defendant not guilty," he said slowly. But what happened next was something no one had expected. The judge stood, and as Amara walked past the bench, every single person in the courtroom rose to their feet. Her courage and intellect spread across the nation, inspiring countless others. She had turned her own trial into a lesson in truth, courage, and dignity. Prosecutor Bennett was later indicted for corruption. Judge Denton publicly apologized, and even invited Amara to speak at a legal conference on ethics. Standing before the crowd at the conference, Amara's words resonated with the same strength she had shown in the courtroom. "Justice isn't about power," she said. "It's about truth. And sometimes, truth speaks, even when the world laughs."